Welcome back, everyone. For today, we have our chapter, The Kite Maker, written by Ruskin Bond. This is a short story. Before we move on to the explanation of the chapter, let's do an activity. Let's observe this picture which is there on this page number 68. Okay? What do you see in the picture? We see a fort here, we see some trees, we see this huge banyan tree. It looks quite old, right? Then there is this abandoned mosque which I can see here. I hope everybody can observe. Then there is this stone carved path, and then we see this little boy who's running somewhere, and he's looking back and he's running forward. So is he afraid of something? What is he afraid of, and why is he running? And then we also observe this kite. What is this kite doing here? Was this boy flying this kite? A beautiful bright yellow kite? What is this kite doing here? We have all these questions, and we hope that these questions are answered in the chapter. Okay, just remember the questions that we have just put up by looking at the picture. Okay, and then in the end we will discuss whether we have found the answers for all these questions or not. Okay, as the name of the story is The Kite Maker, it's very clear that the story will be about a kite maker. Do you think this boy is a kite maker? We'll find out. So, talking about the characters, first we have a little boy whose name is Ali, and the second character that we are introduced to is the grandfather, who is Mehmood. So, this short story is about a small boy, Ali, and his grandfather Mehmood, who is a kite maker, who had been a kite maker when he was young. The story is narrated in the third person by an unnamed narrator. Okay, we don't know who the narrator is. Till the end of the story, the person who is telling us the whole story is unnamed. Mehmood once made his living from making kites. So this character Mehmood, who is the grandfather in the story, once he used to make his living from making kites. That means he used to earn money by making kites and then selling them. However, as he grew older, there were less people looking for kites, and the long serving tradition that had made Mehmood a living eventually died out. And when he grew older, as he started growing older, there were less people who were looking for kites, who looked forward to purchase kites from him and fly. And he realized that this tradition was dying out. Not much people were now interested in purchasing kites and flying them. So obviously, then what will happen? Mehmood will not be able to earn money, and that is how his way or his means of earning his living eventually died out. He could not earn much money. Okay, so then in brief, I have told you about the characters. One is Ali and the other one is Mehmood. Ali is the grandson of Mehmood, and Mehmood used to work as a kite maker. Theme. Now, what is the story based upon? What main events are there in the story, and where the story revolves? So, an old man in rural India muses on how the world has changed while his grandson flies a kite nearby. That means this old man, who is the old man? Grandfather. This old man is sitting under this ancient banyan tree, which we just saw in the picture, and he is thinking to himself, okay, he's pondering on how the world has changed, how times have changed as there is development. So how everybody has changed, and when is he thinking about this? When his grandson is playing nearby, and what is he doing? He's flying a kite. He realizes that the pace of life has changed, and those living in his village are busy now. And he realizes one thing, and what is that thing? That the pace of life has changed. Earlier, people had a lot of time to spend with each other, but now the speed of life has changed. Each day is spent like some minutes. People don't have time to spend with each other, and that is what he realizes. And he says that those who are living in this village, these people do not have the time to enjoy those small moments of life. They are busy with their chores. Chores is CHORES, and this is the work, okay, the daily activities that they do, okay, that is chores. I know, weird pronunciation, but yes. Bond uses nature imagery as symbols, and since Ruskin Bond is a gifted writer and he writes so beautifully, so what has he used? He has used nature imagery. That means he has used the elements of nature to express his thought here, okay, so to write whatever he had observed, he must have observed. So Bond uses nature imagery as symbols with an old gnarled banyan tree standing in for the old man, that is grandfather, while a young spry mimosa tree represents the vitality of the grandson. So Bond here is using these nature elements as symbols. One is for grandfather and the other one is for the grandson. And the banyan tree here represents grandfather. The banyan tree and the grandfather has a lot of similarities. The banyan tree is stooping like grandfather does. He is bent. The tree is no longer youthful like grandfather. And this spry mimosa tree represents the vitality, that means the energy, the activeness of the grandson. Okay, mimosa tree is a type of tree, and it is still a sapling. It's a young plant. It's a sapling, so every day it grows. There are new leaves which are added to it every day. There are buds, the roots are expanding, so there is a change in that young tree. It's full of spirit like the grandson. Okay, so here the writer Ruskin Bond is trying to draw a similarity between the elements of nature and the humans. Okay, he is trying to show us that both of them have the same life cycle. They are energetic in youth when the plant is young, and as they grow older they start stooping. Okay, the branches become heavy, they start becoming withered in the sun, they start becoming dry. And he says that Ali is like the mimosa sapling at the edge of the courtyard. Courtyard is the angan, okay, the open area which is there at the front of the house or at the back or at the middle. So grandfather thinks that Ali is just like that sapling at the edge of the courtyard. Okay, at the corner of the courtyard there is this mimosa sapling, the young mimosa tree which has been planted, and Ali is just like that sapling. They are young. They here is Ali and that sapling, that mimosa sapling. So both of them are young and will grow up tall and strong. They will have confidence in themselves and they will grow up tall and strong. Mahmood is like the banyan tree he sits beneath, and Mahmood is just like that banyan tree under which he is sitting right now. While he is thinking all these things, that the world has changed, the times have changed. Both are stooped, old, their bones and branches twisted. Here the writer is drawing a similarity, as I told you. So both are old. The banyan tree as well as grandfather have become old, stooped. That means the tree is no more standing straight, and grandfather also cannot walk or sit without bending, and their bones and branches twisted. That means he can no more work that much energetically. It is very tiring for him to work for so long, and branches also cannot hold much weight, so they've become twisted. Then Bond here is suggesting, or we can say highlighting, that India was beginning to prosper at the time the story was written. So through the story, he is trying to take us to the era, to the time when India was prospering. Okay, it was developing, and the villages became towns, and the towns became cities. Villages were growing, they were developing into towns, and the towns were expanding, they were changing into cities. Yet the traditions that Mahmood had carried through from previous generations seemed to have gotten lost as people prospered. But the contrasting thing here, which was happening, was to the artisans, the people who were involved in handicrafts. Everything was prospering. Prospering means becoming wealthy, growing and developing. But the artisans, they were becoming poorer. They did not want the handcrafted things. So people like Mahmud were suffering from this development that was happening, from the industrialization, from the urbanization that was happening at such a great scale. Okay. So we'll talk about this thing, the artisans suffering, when we complete the chapter, the explanation of the chapter. And in the end, the message that this story is trying to give us is that trees have deep roots, and with their shade they protect and shelter others, right? Similarly, men, that means the humans, okay? Humans too have a strong sense of belonging, and they seek to protect. That means they want to protect and shelter their loved ones. True, trees and men grow almost at the same pace, being glorious in their youth, then slowly embracing old age with fragile limbs in the sun, and finally leaving the world with a sigh. And then the poet signifies that trees and men grow at the same pace. That means with same speed, they have almost a similar life cycle. They are glorious in youth, they are energetic, they are so active in their youth. They each and every day there's a new thing which we learn in our youth. As there is a change, a new change, the plants become brighter as they are growing, and then they slowly embrace old age. That means with open arms they accept the old age, and with old age comes the fragility. That means the weakness in the limbs, and it says with fragile limbs in the sun. Whose limbs? So here limbs refer to the hands and legs of humans, okay, and the branches of the trees. Trees, when they become old, their branches become weak, they shed off their leaves, the branches start to become withered, they start to become dry, the roots start becoming weaker, as it happens with the humans. Okay, we start becoming weak, we are not able to stand, we are not able to talk for that much time, we're not able to see, our eyesight becomes weak, our limbs become fragile. Fragile means weak. Okay, we are most of the time tired, we are not able to do any activity when we become old. Like, we can relate this with our grandparents, right? The writer says that the elderly should be treated with patience and respect. The one message which all of us should keep in our mind is that the elderly should always be treated with patience and respect. And not just elderly, all the people who are around us should be treated with a lot of patience, with a lot of respect. No matter they are having an inferior post to us or they are superior to us, does not matter, or whether they are comrades, does not matter. We can learn from their experience and wisdom. So he talks about the experience and the wisdom that we can learn from our elders, the life experiences that they have, and when they share that with us, we get to learn a lot of things from them. And they must always be appreciative of their contribution to our lives. We should always appreciate the contribution that they do to our lives, the small bit things that they teach us each and every day, the traditions and the values they give us. Okay, so I hope the briefing is clear to you. Okay, we have Ali and we have the grandfather, and grandfather is sitting under the ancient banyan tree, and he's thinking about how life has changed completely, how people have changed. Earlier people used to sit together and chit chat and used to talk about their problems, but now people don't have that much time for them.